Hello and welcome back to another Witchfire video, and today we're looking at the Which is Better series, and today it's going to be the long-range rifles. Now, out of any gun in the game, the long-range rifles have the most. There's 2 shotguns, 2 machine pistols, 2 revolvers, and 2 auto rifles, but for whatever reason, there's 5 sniper rifle type weapons. Bolt rifles, just the long range rifles. And they kind of serve different purposes, it's probably why. Like, we have 2 bolt action, we have 2 sniper rifles, and then we have the Striga, which is kind of its own class. But being that they all kind of serve the same purpose, or along the same lines of the same purpose, I just decided to categorize all of these into one video here, just because I want to move on to other shit. I don't want to sit here and do 3 videos on the snipers. So I figured I'd start this off with what I feel is the least good out of all of them. It doesn't mean any of these are bad, or you can't use any of these, it's just my personal preference, and I would love to spark up a conversation on why you think I'm a dummy, and why the gun that you like should be at the top of the list instead of what I like. Now, unfortunately, in my opinion, the highest damage weapon in the game is the worst. And for one simple reason. One, I don't feel that its Mysteria works that well with it, and 2, it has such a low ammo count, and that would be the Hailstorm. Now, you get 20 bullets with this damn gun. That's not enough to really do anything. I think you can get up to 25, maybe. But that's not enough to handle much. Like this, you can't use this as a primary weapon, really. It's always going to be a secondary because it's only meant to deal with, like, elite enemies. And I honestly wish that they would buff it by just give it, like, 10 more rounds. Please. That would make this gun so much better, because you could actually use it for shit other than elites. But I find that after 1 camp, I'm out of ammo. You only get 3 ammo chests in the game, so it's like a problem. Now, all my grievances out of the way, let's get into some other ones with the Mysteria. Every 3rd consecutive critical hit recharges the magazine with 2 extra bullets. That is the best Mysteria, in my opinion, on this gun. That one's actually extremely useful, regardless of what situation you're in. If you're trying to deal with a boss, you can just lean into them, doing crazy amounts of damage without having to reload. If you're trying to take out a camp, it's really good at just getting them all out of there, and so on. Just an excellent Mysteria. At Mysteria 2, consecutive critical hits decrease zoom and flinch and increase handling and bullet bending. Mistakes or reloading reset this buff. That sounds really cool, and it's pretty useful, but it makes it fucking impossible to get used to using this gun. Because as you use it, the way it aims is different. Like, dude, with the Basilisk, I don't have this problem. I know it's zoom, I know it's sensitivity, I know how to use that gun. I get used to how it's zoomed. The Hailstorm, as you use it, it changes. And then whenever you reload, it changes again. Like, I can't fucking get used to using this damn thing. It feels so weird. And also, it doesn't make sense for it to be like, oh, this is like the super sniper rifle. We're gonna make it to where it zooms in less and less and less. That doesn't make sense to me, but, you know, maybe I'm using it wrong. Maybe I just don't understand. We'll go with that one and give this the benefit of the doubt, and we'll call me a big dumb head. Now, at Mysteria 3, every 3rd consecutive critical hit makes the target explode with a freezing shockwave. Not that great. Like, this is like the long-range version of the Hunger, but the issue is, it's not a crowd-clearing weapon. It's not, like, why does it have this crowd CC thing? Like, yeah, I like that it freezes a target. It just doesn't make sense to me why it happens in the shockwave. I rarely ever see that come into effect. Granted, I don't use this gun that often, so who knows? Maybe I'm just, like I said, using it wrong. So I'm not gonna lay into this gun anymore. It does so much damage. It will kill whatever you put in front of it if it doesn't run out of ammo first. Now, literally all they would have to do to make me happier with this gun is give it a few more rounds. They can leave the Mysteria alone. If I use it more, maybe the second 2 Mysteria will become more important or more useful, and I'll figure it out better. But as of right now, I hate using it because I can't fucking use it. It runs out of ammo every 5 seconds. Now, moving into what I believe to be the second worst, I guess you could say. We're gonna call it the 4th best, because at this point, the game is pretty damn balanced. Everything is viable, except for the Hailstorm, because you don't have enough ammo for it to be viable. It's only viable as a secondary. You can't use it as a primary. I said I was done bitching about it. Alright, so the Allseeing Eye and the Hypnosis. I had a very hard time placing these because, in my opinion, I love the Allseeing Eye. This was the original favorite weapon of mine. Like, dude, this thing was so incredible. And it still is. But other things have come out to kind of push it down farther and farther, but I still find myself coming back to this damn gun all the time. Now, for what it's meant to do, which is like crowd damage and like big area of effect damage, this thing is unmatched. You can't find a better weapon to deal with a shitload of enemies other than the Allseeing Eye. And for one simple reason. It doesn't give a shit how far the enemy is. It doesn't give a shit if there's stuff in the way. It doesn't care. You could have an enemy on the other side of a mountain across the map, and this gun will fuck it up without you even trying. I've accidentally cleared camps from across the map because this thing is just so stupid. So I think we're going to place this in 4th place for right now, for what I feel like is going to be everybody's experience. But in my opinion, this thing is like 3rd or 2nd place. So just keep that in mind. At Mysteria 1, increases damage against enemies with more than 75% HP. That's really good for handling little dudes and I suppose bosses, but it's kind of a weird Mysteria because, like, you'll hit an enemy for half its health, absolutely chunk it, and then you'll have to hit it 2 or 3 more times before it dies, because the rest of the shots are just weak as shit. Now, it makes sense as to why the rounds themselves are weak here in a little bit. It says, at Mysteria 2, a magical circle appears on critical hits, dealing damage to all enemies it frames, ignoring distance. So basically, when you hit an enemy in the face, you'll see like a 10-foot wide circle show up. That circle becomes the radius of the bullet. So now that bullet is massive and travels through objects across the map. Which means if you go to the first camp and you're shooting enemies and you're getting headshots, you'll notice that you'll see little damage numbers way the fuck off in the distance. And that's because those bullets are hitting people across the map through all the rocks and trees and shit. Which makes this thing so badass. So it makes up, like, you can say, there's an argument to be made that the Hailstorm has the highest single shot damage in the game. But I would argue that the Allseeing Eye has limitless damage on a single shot because it can hit every enemy if you line it up. And especially if it's the first shot hit. At Mysteria 3, if the critical hit dealt increased damage, the circle applies decay. So now you're hitting enemies all across the map with that 35 damage or 40 damage or whatever that is from the shockwave. And it's also applying decay. This thing has the highest single shot damage in the game if you line up your shots. And half the time you don't even have to try to do it. This thing's just badass. Like, you see what I'm saying? So while the Hypnosis is going to take the lead for what I feel is like probably a more consistent weapon, the Allseeing Eye just takes the cake for me personally. Now moving into the hypnosis, this thing has a lot of good stuff going for it, and just one major drawback. We'll get into it as we go through the Mysteria. At Mysteria 1, aiming down sight slowly charges the bullet with bonus damage. Increased damage is weighted towards the end of the time window. A shot perfectly timed at the end of it inflicts even more damage. So I did those two Mysteria back to back just because they work simultaneously. So as you aim down sights, you'll notice that the little light is charging up and glowing more and more, and you'll hear like a zzz. If you time that at the very end of that, you'll hit an enemy, and you'll hear like a bell gong off. Basically that just means that you're getting better damage. And that's where the big drawback is. This gun does insane damage, comparable to the Hailstorm, but it's just so fucking slow to sit there and wait for this thing to charge up, and then you shoot one enemy, fuck it up, and then you got 3 other enemies in your shit now. You see, like, it's kind of hard to use this because of how slow it is. Now, at level 3, this thing becomes a monster. After the 3rd perfect shot in a row, perfect shots deal lightning damage. That is incredible. It adds like a kind of a CC, like an area of effect type deal to it, because those arcs can jump to other enemies that are close. And those arcs do a ton of damage. So, all in all, the Hypnosis is a phenomenal weapon, and you can absolutely destroy shit with it. It's just too slow. It's so damn slow. And that's what earns it kind of the middle of the road. It's the most okay rifle. If it was a little bit quicker, dude, this thing would be easily number 1. Now going into number 2. I had a very difficult time, once again, with what should be number 1 and 2. I feel that in most people's eyes, the Basilisk is number 1, and I could see why. It has a self buff. It gives you a shitload of DPS from the fire scoped in on an enemy, and it does a lot of damage really fast because of the fire rate. Now, all that being said, the Striga is just better if you can use it. So we're going to go through the Basilisk in the number 2 spot. And I expect to hear plenty of shit from this. So at Mysteria 1, critical hits ignite the scope for a few seconds, causing enemies viewed through the fiery scope to burn. Basically, you shoot an enemy in the face, and it starts applying burn to enemies, but it's not for the DPS, it's more for the debuff. If you don't know, there are 2 different types of burning in this game, and I don't feel that it's showed very well. You have burn that does damage, and then you have burn which acts like a rend. At this Mysteria 1, it's the rending version of burn. It doesn't do much damage at all. It barely ticks. You won't even notice that it's hurting them, but you'll notice whenever you shoot it again, it does a shitload more damage. That's what this particular burn is. At Mysteria 2, shooting a burning enemy extends the burn duration, so that extends that rend. Now at level 3, killing a burning enemy with a critical hit triggers an enhanced fiery scope that continuously damages enemies. This applies like the actual damaging burn, where the longer you look at an enemy, you'll notice big chunks of their health going down. So just keep that in mind. Until you hit level 3, that burn's not going to do shit. It's just there for the rend. Now, this thing has a lot of stuff going for it. It has really high stagger power. It has a lot of damage per shot, and it fires fast, so you can lay into a boss. And on top of that, fucking up, you kill one enemy, and then just looking at an enemy will kill them, which significantly improves your DPS. So if you kill a little enemy and then you look at a major enemy and you're shooting them, you're burning them every second while laying in hundreds and hundreds of damage very fast. It has good mag capacity at 10 rounds, so you can just fucking burn them down, and it has decent carry capacity at 50, well, technically 60 rounds. You get 10 in the mag, 50 extra. So this thing is pretty damn good. But in my personal opinion, it's outshined by the newest gun added to the game, the Striga. Now this thing, it is easily the hardest weapon in the game to use. But it does what I feel like is the most insane damage out of any gun. I've seen this thing hit way, like twice as hard as the Hailstorm under the right circumstances. And it's not hard to hit these circumstances. That's the thing. This thing has insane stagger power. We'll go through the Mysteria and then I'll explain why it does so much damage. At Mysteria 1, it deals bonus damage to stunned enemies. And that bonus damage is fucking significant. I'm talking like twice as much damage to these dudes. You'll be hitting for 250 a shot if you hit a headshot. If you stagger them, I've seen numbers as high as 495, which is just absurd. At level 2, the stake ignites mid-flight, increasing damage and triggering a burning shockwave on impact. This thing just became a CC weapon. And that mid-flight extra damage also stacks on top of the stunned damage. So now you're hitting for 600 damage. And if the enemy's on fire, because you already lit them on fire, it's jumping up even higher. This thing is absolutely absurd. Now at Mysteria 3, critical hits shock all nearby foes. And that is a stupid high damage shock as well. I still am unsure on what affects the shock damage because it's so random. Sometimes you'll see it hit for 60, other times you'll see it hit for 500. Now, I do believe, I haven't tested this, so I don't know for sure, but in my experience, I believe it's taking into account the bonus damage from stunned enemies and also the bonus damage from the mid-flight burn thing, the Mysteria 2 deal. I think it takes into account all of that extra damage and applies it to the shock. So, all in all, this thing is easily the best gun in the game once you get to where you can use it. Now, as far as bossing, because this has very much been about dealing with camps. So if I were to say what's best for bossing, the list is going to change. Allseeing Eye is at the bottom of the barrel. Then we have the Hypnosis, probably, because it's too slow. I mean, it does really, really good damage, but it's very slow. The Hailstorm can just pump out ridiculous damage in a very short time. You can get the galley slave to half health within like 3 reloads on this gun, which is just absurd. So I think that the Hailstorm is going to take 3rd place just because it doesn't have enough damage to kill all of the bosses and before it runs out of ammo. The Basilisk is going to take 2nd place once again. And this really depends on the boss you're fighting. Against the first boss on the Island of the Damned, Basilisk is easily top. But the other 2 bosses, the Striga beats it out by just its absurd damage. Now, if you're talking about just encampments and shit like that, it's the original list. So, if you disagree with my listing and you're like, wow, dude, this is unprofessional, you're all over the place just rambling, let me know in the comment If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. I've been doing really well lately, and I haven't forgot about the 100 subscriber special yet. I'm kind of waiting to get a face cam. But if you want to see that video before I get that, that's fine. Just let me know in the comments and I'll put out something. It was just weird because I made it and I edited it and all of that. And then it was weird because I was just sitting on one screen talking. There's no gameplay or anything. So you're just looking at my screen while I talk to you. And I was like, I don't think anybody's going to like that. So let me know if that's what you're interested in. So otherwise, have yourself a very fine day.